They're twisting the text. They are trying to conceal its true meaning. We've heard, but their edits are shallow. The truth will out someday.
Peace of the Lord to all of you. Welcome to the show. So, the Quran is full of mysteries, and there is a specific one that everybody has heard about, found in Surah 9, verse 30, where the Quran says the Jews say that Ezra is the son of God. But nobody seems to know where that comes from. There is no record of the Jews ever saying that. Or is there? So we have with us our friend Shai, who looks at apocryphal stories from the Jews and Christians and historical records to see where the stories in the Quran came from. Just as he showed us, here you have a couple of screenshots of previous shows that we've done with Shai. One of my favorite shows ever here on the channel is the one here with the Queen of Sheba. So Solomon and Sheba story. That was very good. And if you haven't watched that, make sure that you do after the show. But today we're going to be talking about Ezra, the son of God, and see if Shai has actually found the answer to that big problem or found some clues that will lead us to finding the answer. So Shai, welcome back to the channel. How are you, sir?
Great to be here. I'm fine. Thank you very much. How are you?
Yeah, I'm very well. So, and hopefully we are streaming correctly on both our platforms, plus on X, plus Facebook. So hopefully all of that is going well. Fingers crossed. And so, Shai, do you think you have found the answer to who is Ezra or why the Quran says that Ezra is the son of God?
Yes, I think I have a very good candidate for this option. Of course, I'm not the archaeologist or a textual researcher. It's all there for anyone who wants to see. We just bring it out. So actually, I'm very new at this. So I hope people will be patient with me because I'm new at live streaming. But what we're going to do is we're going to make it a two-part video. Hopefully, we'll finish both of the parts today. If not, we'll continue a different time. The first part will be about the Islamic claim that Jews worship Ezra as the son of God. By the way, most Jews don't even know about it. If you ask any Israeli and you say, do you worship Ezra? And he said, which Ezra? What Ezra? Are you talking about Ezra the scribe, Ezra the rabbi, Ezra from the Shukar Carmel that everyone worship his falafel? They don't know what you're talking about. It's something that's very foreign to Israelis and most Jews, this claim. But actually in Islam, it's a very strong claim. And the first part, we're going to go through it. And what do Muslims claim, how Muslims prove this verse to have any reliable meaning or any logic into it. So they give all kinds of claims to prove that it's a legitimate verse. So next slide. I'm going to show through this, through the Islamic claim, the principle of Islam. In Islam, we usually, people in the West, Jewish mind, Western mind, we always, especially religious people, we have a pursuit of truth. We see truth as something that is holy, it's divine, it's something that we pursue it and want to reach it. In Islam, it doesn't work this way. It doesn't want to convince you about any truth or a lie. There's only one narrative in Islam, which is advancing Islam. So anything that advances Islam is the true Islam. And it's like you see the picture in the snake in the picture. The serpent, when it moves in two opposite direction simultaneously. So when part of his body going to the left, the other part is going to the right. But this is the only way for the serpent to advance forward. This is how he moves forward. And we'll see through this case how it is exactly how Islam claims to advance, even contradiction claims about the same thing, as long as both of them keep Islam forward. Do you understand what I'm trying to convey here?
Yeah, absolutely. And I really like the example of the snake. That's actually a new one. I've never heard that one before. And yeah, very good example.
Yes, it's actually it's actually also from the Torah when Moses left up the cane towards God, towards the sky. The cane was straight, like the straight path close to God. And once he dropped it, it became a serpent and became swirly. So it's either way, any way you choose it. At the end of the day, it's any way you choose it, it will go forward. It is either you choose the positive way or the way of sin and deception. Eventually, it will get somewhere. So this is from this connotation. So next slide. We're going to talk about Ezra. So a little bit about Ezra. Christians and Jews know him from the book of Ezra and Nehemiah. He's a scribe born in Babylon around 480 BCE. He's a descendant of Aaron, the priest, and a scholar. He led the return of Jewish exile from Babylon to Jerusalem. So he did it during the Second Temple period. He had a really big role in convincing Jews to come back to Judea. He established a model text to preserve the Torah accuracy. In the Talmud, there are many beautiful and elaborate legends about Ezra. Some of them, he's very respected. Some of them equated him in the spiritual stature of Moses or Aaron, or even as a messianic figure. But none of them ever said that he is a son of God or like God. So he died around 313 BCE. So this is the Ezra we and the Muslim talk about. Now, let's go straight into the verse. I brought two versions of it. The regular version is the Sin Standard Islamic Narrative version, and the other translation is the Murad translation, which is actually the literal translation of the Quran, like as it's written, so it is translated in the Murad. While in the Standard Islamic Narrative, as you know, they do all kinds of changes in the text. So should I read it or you want to read it?
Okay, let me actually read it. It's a little bit small, but I think I can. So with the Standard Islamic Narrative translation, we have here Daif International, who renders that for us as, the Jews say Ezra is the son of Allah, and the Christians say the Messiah is the son of Allah. That is their statement from their mouths. They imitate the saying of those who disbelieved before them. May Allah destroy them. How are they deluded? Do you want me to have a go at Murad's version?
No, I can do with the Murad. And the Jews have said Uzair is the son of Allah, and the Nasara, that's the Christian, have said Al-Masih, Messiah, is the son of Allah. That is their saying by their mouth, analogizing the saying of those who have covered from before. Allah combated them, Anna, they be calumniated. So Anna usually, I don't know, maybe it's Aramaic, but in Hebrew, in ancient Hebrew, Anna means where. So combated them where they be communicated for. So, but the first thing you see, the first difference clear that you see here is the Standard Islamic Narrative usually, not all the time, but usually uses present tense, while the Murad translation uses past tense. Did you notice it?
Yes, and actually this is something I would really love to see Murad when he comes back to do live streaming to actually use to actually show the problems with the tenses. In short, the Quran speaks in the past tense like a lot, and they all and then the translators they make it into the present tense to sell the the illusion that this is Muhammad speaking to the crowd about, oh, look, this is what they are doing, when in fact the Quran is supposed to be telling, for the most part, stories of the past. So this doesn't surprise me. The Quran is full of problems with the tenses.
Yes, and to give it also this eternal flair to it, that it's a word that is current to all time. So next slide, we'll see that most of all in English. Also, by the way, in my Hebrew translation, maybe you can see your language translation too. My translation in Hebrew and almost all the English translation all speak about current belief system, that the Jews call Uzziah son of Allah, and Muslims call Christ son of Allah. The Jews say, nothing in the past tense. Even the part of cursing or destroying, it's in the current tense. Allah curse them, Allah destroy them, Allah fight them. The only translation that is actual past tense is Dr. Ali. He's the only one who write it in past tense, but even he, in the part of fighting, it make it present tense. Fight them today. Allah fight them today. So most of translation in the narrative of Islam are present tense. So we're talking about a current belief that today Jews worship Ezra as the son of Allah. So which one is it? Is it past custom or current custom? And then this is when I want to this is why I gave the example of the snake. Let's start with the Islamic sources themselves that prove to us that not only that it's a current worship that Jews do today, because according to Islamic sources, the Hadith, there are a few Hadith and other, this worship of Ezra as the son of Allah will continue until the end of days. So we have this one example of a Hadith that the followers of Muhammad had asked him, what will the day of judgment, the day of resurrection will look like? And he tells them that they will meet Allah and how things will go on. And then he get to this part. Somebody will then announce, let every nation follow what they used to worship. So he's talking about nations. So the companions of the cross, that's all the Christians of the world, will go with their crosses. And the idolaters will go with their idols. And the companions of every false deities will go with their God, till there remain those who used to worship Allah. That's the Muslim. They will be the last nation, both obedience and mischievous. So the righteous Muslim and the sinners of the Muslims. So anyway, then after all will gather, then it will be said to the Jews, what did you use to worship? They will reply, we used to worship Ezra, the son of Allah. It was said to them, you are liars, for Allah has neither a wife nor a son. So this is also kind of a disconnect from the understanding of religion, of Jewish or Christian religion, because originally in Islam, they think that we believe Allah has a wife. And for that, because he has a wife, then he has a son. That's a very primitive understanding of Christianity and Judaism. So according to Islam, in the future, and today and until the end time, Jews believe that Allah has a wife and they bore a son whose name is Ezra. And now let's see how sinister it is. This announcer will ask them, what do you want now? They will reply, what do you think they will reply? Will they say, forgive us? Will they repent? Will they ask for forgiveness? No, they will say they want water. That's what they want. And then it was said to them, they will be shown this mirage of heaven full of water, and it will and someone will tell them, drink, and they will go and drink and fall down in hell. This is the nation of the Jews in the end times getting punished for worshiping Ezra and Allah's wife. And again, the story continues with the Christian part. Same scenario. Again, a Christian will say they worship the Messiah, and it will say to them, again, Allah neither has a wife, as if Christians believe God has a wife, which they don't. So you see how clueless they are from from understanding the religions they tend to be part of. And again, they will say drink water and they will fall to hell too. So we got it to this part?
Yeah, this is something that I've heard Muslims pretending that this hadith doesn't exist, because it actually really says this is going to be for the day of judgment. It's going to be on the day of judgment, the Jews are going to say this. But here we are, and the Jews say, what are you talking about? We don't say that Ezra is the Son of God. So there is a clear problem. So they pretend that this doesn't exist, and they come up with all of these other interpretations. No, that was in the 7th century, it was in Arabia, and it's like, but you have your hadiths. By the way, so we're getting some comments as well that I cannot read because they are in Hebrew, so I'll put them here on the screen. And when
Allah can't have a wife nor not a son because he doesn't have a wife. That's what this in Hebrew says. Okay, so anyway, do you want me to read the comments?
Well, particularly, I will show them as they are actually popping up, and if they're in Hebrew, they are certainly not for me.
Okay, so the audience, Hebrew speaking, can read it. So now we know we worship Ezra as the son of Allah until the end of time. But now we need to know, when did we start this worship? So this is from the history of Al-Tabari, the pseudo-history of Al-Tabari, the ancient kingdoms. And he's talking about the return of the Jews to Judea after Babylonian exile. So Allah, taking pity on them, he returned them, the Jews, to Palestine and Jerusalem. Anyway, they had, when they came back, they had no divine scripture, for the Torah has been seized and burned, and it perished. Ezra, one of the captives of Babylon, who returned to Palestine, spent days and nights graving over it in solitude. So Ezra, this is definitely speaking about Ezra the scribe, as we know it from history. Now, this part I want you to remember, because we're going to come back to it. This is kind of a miraculous event. The man, which is actually an angel, the man came carrying a vessel filled with water. He was an angel sent by God, and gave Ezra to drink from that vessel. So there is when we go on, we will see this where they originated the story from. So remember that part. Now we get to the other part. This part tells us when the Jews started to worship Ezra as the son of God. So Tabari writes, Ezra stayed among them to carry out the divine truth. Then he died. In the course of time, the Israelites, not some Jews, not the Jews of this ancient tribe from which, who knows where in Medina, the Israelites in Judea considered Ezra to be the son of God, and it continues, and it references Quran 9:30, saying that part. So Quran 30 referenced in this practice that started a little bit after Ezra died in Judea. So we have here a slide diagram. According to standard Islamic narrative timeline, around 330 or a little bit after 313 BCE, the Jews started to worship Ezra as the son of Allah in Judea. This practice continued all the way to 630 CE when Muhammad lived, because Allah revealed a verse telling him that's who the Jews worship. And currently today, we Jews in Israel all over the world worship Ezra, the son of Allah, because eventually in the end time, we will burn in hell for worshiping Ezra as the son of Allah. So this is according to Islamic narrative, to their sources. Does it make any sense to anyone?
Right. So in other words, every Jew actually worships Ezra as the son of God, but they're all keeping it quiet because they don't want everybody to know. So everybody's saying, no, we don't know. But they are worshiping Ezra, and they will do so until the end of times, right?
Yeah, according to the sin. So now we get to the snake part. So if you're an imam in Gaza and your purpose is to advance Islam, So you bring all those mujahid, low IQ savages to the mosque, and you tell them the Jews worship Ezra as the son of Allah. They are kuffar. Go out and kill them. You want to encourage them to kill Jews, and you use this verse and you say, this is from the Quran. Allah said it. It must be true. Conquer the world for Allah. And this is how you advance Islam in Gaza or in Syria or in Iran or, or in Iraq. But if you are Western, if you live in a Western, you're a Muslim who lives in a Western environment like Shabir Ali in the picture under the, this is, he has to use a different tactic because he knows it's a ridiculous claim. He knows there is no historical strength to it. So what does he write? It's a misunderstood verse. He gives all kinds of excuses that gives this other more metaphorical meaning to the verse. So because he wants to advance Islam in an environment where he knows he lives in an intellectual environment, academic environment, free speech environment, free inquiry, freedom of religion and freedom of criticism. So he works in a different environment and he wants to advance Islam in that environment. Therefore, he uses different tactics, sometimes contradicting what the Quran says or what his friends, religious friend in Gaza or in Syria say. You understand the dichotomy of the claims? The way one claim and one contradicting claim, as long as the purpose to advance Islam, both of them are Islam. Both of them are true. You understand me?
I think everyone watching is probably familiar with different examples. I think the most obvious one is about the age of Aisha, that in the Middle East and in Arabic countries, they have no problem with the age of Aisha. It's been in their law, no problem. But once that they are actually in the West, they know that that is a problem. And all of a sudden, Aisha is a grown-up woman. And it's like, no, hang on a minute, but over there is no problem. So you have these two very different versions.
Yeah, you just did a video about it. I saw the last live stream you did about this imam, the Shia imam. Yeah, exactly. It's not that they don't. It's not that they're lying. The concept because we think Western, we've seen them from our lens. We think they're probably lying. They're hiding something. It's not about lying or telling the truth for them. It's how do I advance Islam at any situation, at any current point that I'm in. Whether it is Islam is the religion of peace in the New York, or Islam is jihad fi sabilillah in Syria. It's the same. Both of them are true as long as Islam advances forward. You understand the principle of how they make a reasoning? So now we're going to go through a few of the claims of the intellectuals in the West about this weird assumption, weird claim that Jews worship Ezra. So the first evidence they give is this book, is Second Esdras, also known as Four Esdras. It's a pseudepigraphical book. It's apocalyptic book featuring visions and revelations given to Ezra. The core chapters 3 to 14 were written by an unknown Jewish author. They were actually in Hebrew, by the way, around 100 CE. So it's 400 years after Ezra. Christians later, Christian edition are chapters 1 and 2 and 15 and 16. They were later appended, creating the version found in some Bibles. So the second book of Esdras is an apocryphal book. Part of it is Jewish, part of it is Christian, and the Hebrew version completely lost. So you still have some Bibles with this book. So this is the book. They tell us this book proves Jews worship Ezra as the Son of God, and they give us example of verses. So this is from Esdras 14, chapter 14. Verse 9, this is actually from the Jewish part of the book. And it says, for thou shalt be taken. This is God or an angel speaking to Ezra. For thou shalt be taken away from all, and from henceforth thou shalt remain with my son. And this is speaking about the Messiah in this case. And with such as be like thee until the end times be ended. So they say this proves the Jews worship Ezra as the son of God. But just face value, just by, even if it was true that the verse speaks of the literal son of God, it's still not Ezra, because the angel or God speaking to Ezra, telling him that he will be with the Messiah, along with Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and the prophets until the end of time. He doesn't say that he is the son. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah. It's certainly in here. It's not saying that he's the son; is that he will be with the son. So I hope that this is not how they got to the Quranic version.
Yes. Now, also in Hebrew, there is no capital S, like there is no capital Hebrew letters. In Hebrew, my son is also, it's a common use of also in the Bible, that my son can refer to the people of Israel or the Messiah or a certain prophet or a father or one of our fathers. It's like more of a attribution rather than literal physical son. But anyway, this is another claim they give. This is from the Christian version. So then said I, this is Ezra speaking, said I unto the angel, what young person is it that crowned them and giveth them palms in their hands? So this is literal description of Jesus in this Christian part. So he answered and said unto me, the angel, it is the Son of God, whom they have confessed in the world. Then began I greatly to commend them that stood something name of the Lord. So again, this is Ezra asking an angel about this person that is that he sees, which is a very vivid description of Jesus himself. So again, not talking about Ezra as being the son of God. It's talking about, in this case, Jesus himself as the son of God in Second Ezra. This is from the Christian chapter of the book. Okay.
Okay, actually, just as I know that you actually will have an answer later, but I wanted just to comment from, sorry, just looking for a comment here. So, well, the Quran says in a different place that Mary is the sister of Aaron, which I've done a video about it recently, showing the problems in the tafsirs and so on. But the thing is, in the place, you read the Bible, it will call Elizabeth like one of the daughters of Aaron. So it is odd that in the Bible you have Mary is only mentioned a handful of times in the whole Bible, and she's speaking with Elizabeth, who is described as the one of the daughters of Aaron. And then in the Quran we have Mary, sister of Aaron, when she's actually there speaking with Elizabeth, pretty much. So I do wonder if they had some stuff from the Bible and they simply just misunderstood it, like these sections that you are showing about Esdras, where it is Esdras supposed to be talking about Jesus, but people misunderstood that and they thought, okay, no, that's him, the Son of God. And it's like, no, you're not understanding this. Maybe there is a precedent for this with the whole Mary, sister of Aaron. I don't know.
So again, actually, unfortunately, this is not just a Muslim claim, because it's also been shown by Western academics, Christian or atheists or even Jews, who use Esdras as this, maybe this is the source of this kind of assumption that Jews worship Son of God. So they use, and the Muslims just take advantage of it and adopt this academic actually claim, pseudo claim. But I can't read. Yeah. So, but we're still in Esdras. Remember, I told you about the part where a man, the angel came carrying a vessel and filled with water, and the angel and Ezra drank the water, and this is how the Torah got inside his consciousness. You remember that we showed it before. So this tradition actually comes from Esdras. this story comes from, we have some versions of it in Talmud, but the specific story about the vessel is actually taken from that Ezra story. And funny enough, the only church today that regard Esdras as canon text is the Ethiopian church. And we know how much the Ethiopian church had influence on the origins of Islam. So maybe there is some connection, but not Ezra as the son of God. So there is a connection to the Esdras in Islam. Yes, there is such thing, but has nothing to do with Ezra being the son of Allah. You understand?
Okay. Yeah, actually, the whole connection with Ethiopia, we are exploring now with Kalam from Titans TV, who is apparently the only guy who is actually really researching that in detail, and he's finding a lot of connections. A lot of stuff seem to have come from the Abyssinian Empire, so the south of the Arabian Peninsula. So it would make sense that they would have taken things from there. Also, there are hadiths saying that people, the early Muslims, were actually basically exiled. They went to Ethiopia and they were treated very well by the Christians there. So that would make a lot of sense. Now, just before we continue, let me just mention something I forgot to mention at the start, is that so Shai has his own channel. It's actually here, people can actually see it on the banner and also here at the top. In the past, I didn't actually talk about Shai's channel too much because Shai speaks in Hebrew and I don't speak Hebrew, but YouTube has now rolled out the feature of auto dub. So if anything that Shai is posting now, anything new, it will be auto translated into your language. So make sure that you actually subscribe to his channel, see the stuff that he researches and finds. Even if you don't speak Hebrew, now this feature is rolled out and it really, really helps. So yes, I forgot to mention that at the beginning.
Okay, so this is the part. This is one of the claims to defend this phenomenal, unrealistic verse. Is the book of Esdras as explanation. So now there is another explanation, which they give. Of course, when they are in Western environment, they will use it. And usually they will say, of course, it's not talking about all the Jews. It's just talking about some Jews. So we got to see which one is it. Is it all the Jews or is it just some of the Jews? And of course, both answers are true as long as in the situation, the answer advances Islam. They believe both of them, depends on the situation. So just by reading the verse, face value, this is supposed to be the Quran, the most clear text ever given to mankind. It's supposed to be clear as the sun, right? That's what they say. So if the Quran says the Jews, it doesn't say some Jews. It doesn't say the Jews of Medina or the Jews of Yemen. No, it said the Jews. So if there was a sect of Jews, only a sect who believed that Ezra was the son of Allah, wouldn't an all-knowing, responsible God know that the vast majority of the Jews do not believe this? Wouldn't he tell those Jews that they are contradicting the belief of the Jews of Jerusalem or of the Jews of Babylon? No, he tells them the Jews worship Ezra, the Christians worship Jesus, meaning the whole belief system is surrounding the belief that Ezra is the son of God, just like in Christianity, surrounding the concept of Jesus as the son of God. Okay, so there's no difference there, just by reading the verse itself. But let's let's give them the benefit of the doubt. This is one of the places they want to prove that it's only some Jews. They will go to Sirat Rasulallah, the life of Muhammad by Ibn Ishaq, as one example. Of course, there are many. But this is an example how to show that it's not all the Jews, but only some of the Jews. So this is this part explains how the background to the revelation of 930, of the verse 930. So it says here, Salam and Numan bin Afwa and Mahmud bin Dihya and Shaz and Malik came and said to him. So the Muslim go, you see, it's not all of the Jews. It's just Salam and Nukma and Afwa and Malik and Jihri. It's not all of the Jews. So this is how they want to present it, as if it proves that only specifically those people, or maybe their clan, or maybe their tribe in Medina, those are the one he's talking about. So anyway, those specific people came to him and said to Muhammad, how can we follow you when you have abandoned our Qibla, which is the direction of prayer to Jerusalem, and you do not allege that Uzair is the son of God? And then Allah sent him the verse of 930. So allegedly, the Muslim claim that, you see, it speaks only about the specific group. But again, just because it's specific people coming to Muhammad doesn't mean that they don't represent the whole belief of the whole nation. It doesn't say here anywhere that they are any different from the whole people of the Jews. They pray towards Jerusalem. The Qibla is towards Jerusalem, like all the nation of the Jews. And also they worship Uzair as the son of God, like all the nation. It doesn't talk specifically about them. And neither Allah tells Muhammad that they contradicting the rest of the people, of the Jews. So it's a very weak claim to make that it's only specific place in a specific time. But they do it because they have to, because it doesn't make sense. And either way, even if it's true, let's still give them the benefit of the doubt that it's only Salem and Malik and Awfa and Dikhya and Shaz, only they worship Ezra as the son of Allah, and all the rest of the Jews don't. You go to the next page. This is page 269. You go to the next page, 270. And then you have another story about revelation of a different verses. So it says here, a number of Jews, not all the Jews, just a number of Jews, came to the apostle and said, now Muhammad, wow, wait, I need to drink. Now Muhammad, Allah created creation, but who created Allah? The apostle was so angry that his color changed, and he rushed at them, being indignant for his Lord. Gabriel came, quieted him, saying, calm yourself, O Muhammad. And an answer to what they asked came to him from Allah. Say blah blah. That's verses from the Quran, that there is no God but Allah and all that stuff. But anyway, again, so you have you turn the page, you see Jews claiming Ezra is the son of God. You turn the other page, Jews claiming someone created Allah. You continue downstairs. After he revealed, the Jews ask him a different question. Downstairs, down here, describe. They said to Muhammad, describe his shape, like Allah's shape. Describe his shape to us, Muhammad. His forearm or his upper arm, what are they like? You see, so every time you have some Jews doing some form of spreading corruption in the land. Sometimes it's saying Ezra is the son of God. Sometimes saying Allah has arms and head and feet. Sometimes saying that someone created Allah. Sometimes they want to poison. They poison Muhammad. Sometimes some Jews poison the prophets. Some Jews want to kill Jesus. Every time it's only some Jews, but at a certain point, it's always Jews spreading corruption all the time. So it becomes anyway all the Jews all the time. You understand how they manipulate the narrative? So it's a win-win.
Yeah, and I'm actually quite used to that. A couple of things when you were actually reading this of the Jews saying to Muhammad, "Oh, so who Allah created creation? Who created Allah?" I remember the Christian Prince when he says actually quite often that Allah doesn't exist. It was created by Muhammad, because everything is about Muhammad. So when I read something like this, I do wonder whether the author was actually implying something like this, like, yeah, you are saying that you are speaking with God and you have all of these things from God, but describe him to us, almost like saying you are inventing everything that you say.
Wow.
But
Yeah, it's
and just a little, and just to address here a comment. So in which world does Uzair in Arabic becomes Ezra? The closest to Uzair, it should be Uzziah. Islam is interesting, frustratingly interesting. Yes, I totally agree. I think the reason is might be that because when the Quran was originally written or copied from, there were no diacritics, the words pretty much looked identical. So in the end, you have two different traditions. One of them starts to read Uzair, the other one Ezra, and in the end, they have to say, okay, Uzair and Ezra, they're the same thing. And that's that. Maybe it has to do with people not knowing what the Quran was saying and having to add the diacritics much later, so you end up with the two beliefs. I don't know if that's the case, but it wouldn't surprise me. Shai, do you have an
Yeah, but
opinion on?
again, just by addressing the narrative, the sin itself, according to the interpreters and the scholars, it's speaking about Ezra the scribe, the historical Ezra, and they give reference to him, the Ezra we know from the book of Ezra and Nehemiah. So, according to the sin, anyway, it is Ezra, but there are more. There is another candidate that will be completely out there later on in the video. But so we'll get there in the second part. So anyway, I think we're done with first part. So the conclusion. According to standard Islamic narrative sources, the worship of Ezra as son of God started in Israel from approximately from 300 BCE until end times, till the end, until Judgment Day. 2, there is no evidence of such Jewish worship, including Esdras, because Esdras doesn't speak of Ezra as being the son of God, but he's speaking about the Messiah / Jesus as the son of God. 3, the background of the revelation of Quran 930, as we see now in Ibn Ishaq, and other early scholars don't distinct between group of Jews and the rest of the Jewish nation. So it's a group of Jews coming to Muhammad as representative of the nation, of what the nation believes. And anyway, it's a win-win for Islam, because either way, some Jews spread some form of corruption in the land all the time. So anyway, it becomes all the Jews, whether it's only some Jews do this and other Jews do that. Okay? Any question for this part?
No, that makes perfect sense. The Quran says the Jews, and then the imams and sheikhs and scholars, depending on where they are, they will say all of them, some of them, in the past, in the future. They will just say whatever they have to say. Just tell your shahada, say alhamdulillah, and carry on.
Okay, so now we get into the juicy part. I have a question. Do they see the whole slide? Because I don't see the whole slide in my screen. It's cut. Does in YouTube it's in nothing is cut from the picture?
We can actually see everything. Everything is perfect. The only thing that it is a little bit cut is at the very bottom when I'm putting the banner. But if it's something important, I'll remove the banner. But no, we can see it perfectly.
Okay. So now we get to part 2. So who is that's actually answering the question the viewer just asked. Who is that Islamic Ezra, Uzair? So we have actually 3 candidates, and we're going to go through them. Now, there I am. So the first one, of course, the main candidate is Ezra, the scribe, from Ezra and Nehemiah book, from history. As we know from the modern and ancient scholars of Islam, they all agree it's about Ezra. And here we have Maududi, he speaks about the historical Ezra. So this is basically the standard belief that it's about Ezra. But we have this verse. Now this is when it starts to get crazy. So hold on to your horses. How do you say it in the plane? Seatbelts. So we have another verse that is attributed to Ezra. It's from Quran chapter 2, Surah Al-Baqarah, verse 259. Do you want to read it?
Yeah. So let's see. So this is Dr. Gali.
Read it slow because it's a bit just reading it, it's going crazy. So read it like children book, because the Quran is so
Okay.
obvious, so clear.
Yeah, it's a very clear book in very clear Arabic. So let's see. So this is Dr. Gali saying, or such as, he who passed by a town and it was completely devastated upon its trellises. He said, however will Allah give life to this town after its death? So Allah made him die 100 seasons, i.e. years. Thereafter, he made him rise again. He, Allah, said, how long have you lingered? He said, I have lingered a day or part of a day. He said, no, no, indeed, you have lingered 100 seasons. So look at your food and drink. It has not spoiled. And look at your donkey. And that we would make you a sign for mankind. And look at the bones, how we shall reanimate them and afterwards dress them with flesh. So, as soon as it was evident to him, he said, I know that Allah is ever determiner over everything.
Okay, but what about the town? The whole premise of this verse started with this person, nameless person, who goes through a town and see it devastated, and the first thing that comes to his mind, however, will Allah give life to this town after its death? What about it? And then he gives him a sign of the fruits and the food and the donkey, resurrection of the donkey. What does that has to do with the destroyed town? What happened to that town? The Quran doesn't tell us. It just ends there. It kept in a complete vacuum. And anyway, just the thought of this question, like imagine yourself seeing Berlin after World War II, going through Berlin, and say the first thing that you will ask yourself, how will ever Allah make Berlin resurrect again? That's not something that you ask. People built destroyed cities. The Germans built Berlin back. This is what people do in life. So it's even the question itself has no sense in it. And anyway, it doesn't give what happened to that city in this verse. It just finishes us with the resurrection of the donkey. So just face value, this verse makes no sense. But anyway, for that, we have to go to the tafsir to get more understanding of this verse from Quran 2, verse 259. So this is from Ibn Kathir.
So, Ibn Kathir, who, yes, in case that people don't know, Ibn Kathir appeared 700 years after the time of Muhammad. So there was more time passed between the time of Muhammad and Ibn Kathir than there was time between the time of Jesus and the time of Muhammad. So we're going here into a guy who is very much into the whole doctrine, when he's the one who gives the explanation of what happens. Just in case that people think that Ibn Kathir is probably very close to Muhammad, is 700 years apart.
Yes, so now another technical thing about the slide. From now on, you're going to see all these lines in different colors. These lines in different colors represent different versions from different sources that repeat again and again. So every time there is a Jerusalem, it will be in pink. Every time it speaks about the question, it will be in red. Every time it will be about the 70 years, it will be in yellow. So just to help you follow the thread. So here Ibn Kathir explained this is the story of Uzair, of Ezra. And again, we know it's Ezra the scribe, because it says here in the tafsir, the ayah refers to a man Nebuchadnezzar destroyed. And the ayah refers to a man from the children of Israel, and the village was Jerusalem. So now we know who is the man and who is the town. After the Nebuchadnezzar destroyed it, Babylonian exile, and killed its people. Uzair stood contemplating about what had happened to that city after a great civilization used to inhabit it. And now he has the question, oh, how will Allah ever bring it to life? So now we know the question is about Jerusalem after it was destroyed because of the utter destruction. And after that, Ibn Kathir continue, so Allah caused him to die for 100 years, then raised him up again. The city was rebuilt 70, remember that number because it's an important number, 70 years after the man Uzziah died. And it's inhabited, built it again, and the children of Israel moved there. I can't read it, I'm sorry. Anyway.
So this is actually, so in the Quran, it simply says, it just talks about someone. So instead of saying Ezra saw Jerusalem destroyed, instead of that, it says, it's like he who walked by a town and it is destroyed. And he said, so the Quran doesn't tell you anything, doesn't tell you the town, the person, but 700 years later, we have Ibn Kathir collating all of these commentaries saying, oh yeah, that very clear verse in the very clear book, in the very clear Arabic, is Ezra, the city is Jerusalem, but the very clear book doesn't say any of this.
It doesn't say anything. The verse doesn't say about what happened to that city. Only in the tafsir we read that it was actually built back after 70 years while he was dead. It doesn't say that in the Quran verse. So it's a detail that Ibn Kathir adds. Okay, we continue? Or you want to say anything?
No, that's absolutely fine. Just making sure that people understand that in the Quran, we have a verse that is, you could exegete, basically you don't understand what it means. It has no details, and it is much, much later when people are actually just giving you those details, which obviously begs the question, how did people actually know for 700 years? So,
yeah. So here at Ibn Kathir repeats the detail. When his Ezra's resurrection was completed, Allah said to him, meaning to the angel, how long did you remain dead? This is important to remember. Again, it's a different color, brown reddish color. How long did you remain dead? The man said, perhaps I remained dead a day or part of the day. So he didn't know that he was actually dead for 100 years. And then the angel said, tell him, nay, you have remained dead for 100 years. Look at the food and your drinks. That is in green part. Look at the food and your drink. They show no change. He had grapes and figs and juices, and they remained fresh. The food remained fresh for 100 years. And then the angel said, and look at your donkey. Uzziah absorbed the bones of the donkey, which were scattered all around him, and his right and left. And then Allah sent a wind that collected the bones from all over the areas. And now we get this kind of, I framed it in black because this is a referencing the vision of the dry bones in the Bible, I think by Ezekiel. So this is a bit of a influence from this vision. Allah then brought every bone to its place until they formed a full donkey made of fleshless bones. Allah then covered the bones with flesh, nerves, veins, and skin. It's pretty close to the vision of Ezekiel. Allah sent an angel who blew life into the donkeys, and that you see the resurrection of the donkey in a nutshell, which reference the Ezekiel dry bones vision in the end times. So we continue. This is another part of the Tafsir Kathir. After the donkey resurrected, he rode on his donkey and entered his native place. This is pale brown because we're going to see it again and again. But the people did not recognize him, nor did his household. So his own people and his own family didn't recognize Ezra, the scribe. But then he met this woman. Anyway, she was blind. And then again, I put it in a black frame because this is a reference to Jesus' miracles. He saw a blind woman that knew Ezra when she was young and prayed to cure me of blindness if you are Ezra. He prayed for her and the message and massaged her eyes and took her by the hand. Get up by the power of Allah. He said, The crippled woman stood up and walked. She opened her eyes and saw. Her blindness was gone. She said, I bear witness that you are Ezra. So you see references, we saw before reference to Ezekiel, visions of the bones, and now we see reference to a Christological Jesus kind of miracle from the New Testament. So anyway, she rushed to the assembly of the Israelites. Ezra's son was 118 years old, and his children's children now were lords of the assembly. She called out to them, saying, This is Ezra, come to you. They accused her of lying, meaning they didn't recognize him. They thought she was lying. Anyway, after that, his son said, where is it? I can't see. Can you read the rest? Because I can't see. His son said,
My father had a mark between his shoulders, a black mole, and they discovered it.
Do you know the black mole? Where it comes
Yep.
from?
Well, no, I don't know where it comes from. I know that it is in Islam, but I don't know where they copied that from because it feels weird.
Yeah. Well, I didn't look it up even because it's too much information. But anyway, the black mole, again, I put it in a black frame because it's a different tradition coming from Islam this time about the sign of the prophethood is a black mole in the back of the prophet. Anyway, this is the Tafsir Ibn Kathir. So, Islam candidate number 1 was Ezra, and we can surely say that it's not the historical Ezra. First of all, if anything, Ezra was very much alive during the return of the Jews to Judea. He was not sleeping dead for 100 years during that time because he's a crucial player of bringing the Jews back to Judea. He couldn't be dead that time. So it can't be Ezra. And of course, there is no mention in any Jewish source or legend about Ezra being dead or seeing Jerusalem being destroyed and then living during the time that she was rebuilt. He was actually living after the temple was already built, the second temple. So it can't be Ezra. So now we go to candidate number 2. Any question for now? Or comments?
Just to recap, what we've seen then is that according to Ibn Kathir, Ezra, he saw Jerusalem destroyed. Also, he died for 100 years. Then he was resurrected. Also, he cured a woman's blindness. And also, he had a mole on his back. Basically, a whole sort of things that do not appear anywhere, not in the Bible or in Targums or in anything, right?
Yes, we see Muslim traditions, we see Christian traditions, we see biblical traditions that make up the story, and then we're going to see in the end the Talmudic source. But for now, we'll stay with this. We're going to candidate number 2, and this is Jeremiah, our precious prophet. He lived in 649 BCE to 568 BCE. In the first temple period, he was during the destruction of the temple and the Babylonian exile. So we all know Jeremiah from the book of Jeremiah. Of course, Muslims love all the prophets. Unfortunately, they have no clue who they are, except that part that the Jews killed them. That much they know about the prophets. They love so much.
And actually, before you move on, just to make sure that we are all on track. So you are proposing that the verse in the Quran that says the Jews say Ezra is the son of God, you think that Ezra, they got him confused with other actual characters, biblical characters?
Now I'm talking about the legend behind verse 259.
Okay.
The common belief of 259 is that it's about Ezra. This is the most acknowledged, agreed upon belief. But there are other options, other candidates. This specific is Jeremiah is one example of that candidate. I'm not talking about 930 now. We're talking about the other source for Ezra in the Quran, which is 259, that crazy legend. Okay? Is it clear?
Cool. Yes.
So, the version of Jeremiah comes from Al-Tabari this time. He has two versions of Jeremiah. We'll start with version 1 of that story from 259. Version 1. So, according to a report reaching us, God then inspired Jeremiah. Thus, I am restoring Jerusalem, a destroyed city. Therefore, process to settle there. So he set out, and arriving there, he found it in ruins, a ruined city. He said to himself, the question, God be praised. He commanded me to settle in the city and announced to me that he would restore it. But when will he rebuild it? And when will he revive it? After its death? Again, we have the question. And then right after the question, the sleeping time. He then put his head down and fell asleep. His donkey and provision basket were with him. So food and the donkey. And then he says here, a bit different from the Kathir, he remained asleep for 70 years. Remember those 70 years? So now we have a twist in the story. It's not actually 100-year death. It's a 70-year sleep. And then during that time, Nebuchadnezzar and on the rest, and it continued. He had slept until he was 100 years old, but when God revived him, he thought he had been asleep for only an hour. Again, he didn't understand that he was sleeping for 70 years. We see that the thread continues. Next slide.
Okay, actually, just before that, so we are saying that the very clear book, when it's talking about someone and then the destroyed city and so on, it's supposed to be the very clear book. But when you are going to the sources, you have so far over there, even Kathir saying, look, this is Ezra with all of these things. And now you go to Al-Tabari, who is saying, oh, this is the story that it is Jeremiah. So the very clear book was so not clear that even these great scholars of Islam, they didn't even know the main character of that story, right?
Exactly, yes.
Wow.
And then we have another version from the same person, Tabari, again about Jeremiah. Jeremiah came on his donkey carrying a vessel of grapes, juice, and basket of figs. That's the food and the donkey. And then he asked the question, how would God revive this city after its death? Then, right after the question, God then caused him to lie dead for 100 years. Same Jeremiah. Now it's not 70 years sleep. Now it's like Ibn Kathir, 100 years death. So you see, they just play with, they are all over the place. That's why it took me so much to repair this slide, because it's so confusing. I'm trying to make it as much clear to everyone to follow. So anyway, he was dead for this part of Jeremiah, dead for 100 years. And then here we have another interesting part that we're going to see later from the original story. God made him invisible. So during that time when he was dead, he was like, no one could see him. He was like invisible. That's why no one could touch him or see what happened to him. So he was invisible for 100 years. Then God raised him up, saying, how long have you tarried? And he said, I have tarried a day or part of the day. Again, he doesn't know it's 100 years. And then God said, no, you have tarried 100 years. Now look at the food, look at the drink, and nothing is spoiled. And look at the donkey, and we snow make you a sign for the people. Wow, the sign for the people. They all love this sign for mankind stuff. Like, what's the sign here? So look at the bones and your donkey. We shall set them up and close them with the flesh. So again, we see reference to Ezekiel vision of the dry bones. So this is version 2. Now, just to show you how free is the historian Tabari to make all these confusions in the same of taking one story and put it in different characters. Or it's not only Tabari; it's a trait in Islam, in Islamic theology. It's something that it's common. And I have here an example of a different story, just to give you how it's how do you say it? The English word. It's like a continuing narrative, not narrative. It's a habit that they mix one story in different people. So we have just pushing, pulling, just walking aside from the subject. I give you the example of the death of Prophet Isaiah, and next to the death of Saint Zechariah, which is the father of John the Baptist in Christianity. So according to Al-Tabari, in Isaiah, it says here, as Isaiah finished his speech, they turned upon him to kill him. But the prophet fled from them. A tree that he passed split open, and he entered it. But Satan caught him and seized him a fringe of his garment, which he showed to the pursuers. So he was hiding in, Isaiah was hiding in a tree. A thread from his garment was peeping out from the tree, and Satan showed it to the killers. They set a saw across the middle of the tree and sawed through it, and Isaiah was sawn in half. So this is Isaiah, how he died, which is actually, it has both Jewish and Christian traditions about this legend story. Different version, different claims, but there is this parts of this legend are from Jewish and Christian sources. Now we have Saint Zechariah, the father of John the Baptist, same story. So they sought him, but he had fled from them. Iblis presented himself to him in the shape of a shepherd, saying, "O Zechariah, they have caught up with you. Pray to God so the tree might open up for you and that you might enter it." He prayed to God, the tree opened up, he entered it, and a fringe from his garment remained outside. The Israelite passed by Iblis and said, "O shepherd, have you seen a man here?" He replied, "Yes." He enchanted this tree, opened it up, and entered it, and there is the fringe of his garment. And then they took the saw and sawed the tree in half, and he died the same way Isaiah died. Same story, two completely different people from completely different times. They have this freedom of doing it. You understand?
Yes, and I think you've mentioned at least one other, maybe two stories that they confuse people. Is it they confuse Gideon and someone else as well?
It's all over the place. It's in the Quran, it's in the tafsir, it's in the history of Muhammad. It's all over the place. They mix it's like they mash up events, stories, mash them up together. Like they do this mashup of events into different people in different time in different stories. It's something that is common in Islam.
Yeah. And actually, look, here we have the way to actually make sure that we understand the very clear book from our friend Mulhid al-Islam. So it is a clear book indeed. Here's how you do it. Close your eyes and read it in magical Arabic. You see, problem solved. We are just doing it wrong.
Exactly. That's why most Muslims just recite it without knowing what they're reciting in the world anyway. So I just want to show that the Ezra example is not unique. It's a common theme in Islamic theology. So back to Ezra. Now we get to the fun part. The Talmud candidate number 3. You want to know who it is?
Oh, yes. Yes, please.
Okay, are you ready? Next slide. But before that, we're going to see in that the Talmud candidate, all those lines I showed you in different colors. What we're going to see the Babylonian exile that was in the Islamic tradition. We're going to see the destroyed Jerusalem. We're going to see a questions of revival, followed by a dozing off. We don't see dying. There is no dying there, only dozing, going to sleep. We're going to see becoming invisible. We're going to see sleeping for 70 years, like Al-Tabari. And we're going to see that he's not realizing he slept for 70 years. We're going to see something with fruits and donkeys, not exactly as in Islamic tradition, but it referenced there. And we're going to see that he's not been recognizable by his family and his people. And of course, the pièce de résistance, the Son of God we're all waiting for. What we're not going to see, I can't read it, so you read it. Oh, I can see it. No, I see it.
Yes,
You're
so
not
it is the Ezekiel reference, so the dry bones vision, the Jesus reference, the one about the healing the blind, and the Islamic seal of the prophets, aka the mole.
Yes, this doesn't exist in the Talmudic source. So let's go next. First of all, the sources. I would like to give credit because I'm not a scholar. Of course, the Talmudic sources, main sources is from Ta'anit 19a and Ta'anit 23a. Ta'anit in Hebrew means afflictions, like fasting or wearing simple clothes, or affliction for praying a lot. That's what it means, Ta'anit, the word. And the other source is Sefer Agadah, because the Talmud is very hard, even for me, because it's either ancient Aramaic or ancient Hebrew. It's very, very difficult. Sefer Agadah is I recommend people who investigate this stuff use Sefer Agadah. It's a very, very clear source that helps you read the stories in a much more modern way to understand it. And of course, Professor Uri Rubin. And these are my sources. So, ready for the guy.
Let me just say about Professor Uri Rubin, because most people will not be familiar with his work. He, may he rest in peace, he was a phenomenal scholar, and just like other people like Patricia Crone, who are now not with us, I think they would be very, very proud to see the sort of things that we are unpacking by using their work, their lives' work. They were phenomenal people, and we have just advanced things a lot from their time. So I hope they can actually see us, all of the stuff that we're doing. So Uri Rubin, for anyone
Amen.
who is interested to know on other scholars that are phenomenal and they're not really very well known, he is one of them, and yeah, phenomenal work.
I think I actually thought about it. It's not that the academic system was not did not do a good job. It's teaching from the academic that it's been selected, because the information is academic and it's based on facts and it's there for everyone to see. It's the problem is that in academia, people don't talk about it. That's the problem. You understand?
Yes, and also there are just lots of things that have been coming out even over the last 5 years. So the game has changed entirely since, like, in the last 5 years. So these individuals, unfortunately, they're not with us anymore, but they would have been very, very happy to have seen all of the things that are coming out and the things that are going to come out in the next 5 years. So, but they have certainly have done an amazing job at paving the road for us, and we are where we are because of everything that they've done. So all credit to them.
Okay, so we can go now to Choni Hamagel, the circle drawer. Choni, the circle drawer. So the story from the Quran 2:259 is referencing a Talmudic story, a Talmudic legend about Choni Hamagel, who is an historical figure. He lived around 2nd century BCE to the 1st century BCE. No, yes, 2nd, 3rd. He's a Jewish scholar. During the 1st century BC, a number of individuals claimed to be miracle workers in the tradition of Elijah, kind of a John the Baptist figures that were in Israel. There were a few of them. One of whom is Choni Hamagel, the circle maker, who was famous for his ability to successfully pray for rain. So this is the person. Now we can see in the history of Al-Tabari, they also reference him. The portrays for this story, we're talking about the 259, the story of Ezra and Jeremiah, is the legend of Choni, the circle maker, and Jeremiah disciple Baruch ben Neriah. I'm not going to go through Baruch ben Neriah because, again, it's too much information. maybe we can do a sequel as part 2 for this. So we're just going to stick to Honi, the circle maker, which even in the history of al-Tabari is referenced. Okay? So we need to understand
wait.
about...
When it says the prototypes for this story are the legends, sorry, for what story exactly?
The story of the donkey and the fruit and the sleeping for being dead 100 years.
Right.
It's to the tafsir from Ibn Kathir and Tabari, telling the story of behind the verse 2 to 59. Understand?
Okay. Yes. I'm with you.
Okay. So just to understand that, again, the ta'anit, it means fasting. It's more affliction. It's also fasting or praying a lot. So all the whole tracket, it speaks about pray and fast and the paradigm. The paradigm for this this tracket is the power of prayer, the power of devotion and repentance. That's the paradigm. The methodology is conveying the moral or social message through imaginary stories, usually about righteous people, tzaddikim in Hebrew, or in Arabic, tzaddikin. And in our case, Honi HaMe'agel story reflects on the connection between destruction of the first temple, Babylon exile, which was, by the way, 70 years exile, and the second temple return. So you have the tracket about affliction and prayer. The way to convey the message is through legends about historical figures. Part of the legends are true, part of the legends are fantasy, but the purpose is to convey a message through legends. And this is from the Sefer HaAgada by Bialik. This is from the Talmud, and this gives us better translation for the original ancient Aramaic or Hebrew of the legend. So the premise of this legend starts with a commentary on Psalms 1. Can you read it? You read Psalms 126, verse 1. So the whole psalm is about the return of the Jews from the exile of Babylon. That's the verse the rabbis speak about. And they speak about verse 1. When the Lord brought back the captives to Zion, we were like men who dreamed. So from this verse, they want to convey an idea through the legend we're going to read now. Do you understand?
Yes.
Okay. So through all Rabbi Yochanan said, he starts the legend, through all the days of that righteous man, speaking about Honi, he was troubled about the meaning of the verse, a song of ascent, when the Lord brought back those that returned to Zion, we were like unto them that dream. That's Psalms 126, verse 1. Now the question comes, is it possible for men to doze off and dream constantly for 70 years? He's like giving this clueless question, allegedly. So he's asking a clueless question. Can someone sleep for 70 years? And then, walking on the road, he saw a man planting a carob tree. He asked him, how long will it take this tree to bear fruits? The man replied, 70 years. He asked him, are you quite sure you will live another 70 years to eat from the fruits? The man replied, I myself found fully grown cherub trees in the world as my forefathers planted for me, so I am planting it for my children. So again, he asked he's like depicted as this clueless guy who asks clueless questions. So right after the question, once when Honi sat down for a meal, sleep overcame. Continue. Sleep overcame him, and he dozed off. During his sleep, a grotto formed itself around him and hid him from sight. So he became invisible, so that he continued sleeping for 70 years. Remember who was sleeping for 70 years? From Tabari?
Yeah.
Jeremiah.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. So when he woke up, he saw a man gathering the fruit of the same carob tree. He asked, "Are you the man who planted this tree?" The man replied, "That man was my grandfather." Next, when Honi saw the herds and herds of descendants of his own donkey, so he went to sleep. He had only one donkey. He woke up. He saw herds and herds of the descendants of his donkey. So this is kind of referencing the miracle of the donkey in a different angle. So he couldn't understand how could it be that he slept for a few minutes and then he already has herds and herds of the same donkey. So then he exclaimed, "No doubt I slept for 70 years." So in the beginning, he didn't understand. He thought he just made a siesta after a meal, and he didn't understand how come the tree is grown, how come the donkey is now herds of donkeys. So now he realizes he's actually didn't sleep for a few hours, but actually for 70 years. So after he woke up, he went to his home and inquired, "Where is the son of Honi, the circle maker?" He was told, "Honi's son is no longer in this world, but his grandson is." And that he announced, "I am Honi, the circle maker." But no one believed him. So his family, again, didn't recognize him, just as we saw in the Islamic version. He went to the house of study. So now the people, not just the family, also the people of the community, where he overheard the sages say, "This tradition is as clear to us now as it was in the days of Honi, the circle maker. For whenever he came to the academy, we would settle any difficulty the sages had." Hearing these words, he cried out, "But I am Honi." And since the sages, again, neither believed him nor accorded him the honor due to him, he was mortified that he besought God's mercy, and he died. Rava observed, "For this reason, mortals say the followers of men or the followers of death." So we have the frame of the story. Now we're going to get more the differences between the two versions, just to make clear what's going on there. But we're going to get to the pièce de résistance, which is where did the son of Allah comes from, and it actually comes from the same legends, not this legend, but same Ta'anit tracket about another legend about Ezra. And this is from Ta'anit 19, the tracket Ta'anit 19a. And the discussion between the rabbis begins with this premise. If a city is afflicted by pestilence or collapsing building, that city, so we're talking about a destroyed city, that city fasts and cries out, and all of its surrounding areas fast do not cry out. And Rabbi Akiva says, there's all kind of arguments between the rabbis. So Rabbi Akiva said, no, they cry out, but they do not fast. So they doing this argument about, is there such a thing as too much afflictions? Is there such a thing that people should don't torture themselves because they're torturing their body? Maybe it's certain conditions they only pray, and in certain conditions they also fast. So that's the argument. So in order to convey this this point that actually not that the city that hurt she needs to fast, but those who live around it only pray. So to convey this story, he gave a new legend is talked about, and in that legend it speaks generally saying, I'm not going to go through it, that Honi is afflicting himself for God to bring rain down from heaven. So he afflicted himself and he drew a circle and stood inside the circle and said, God, I will not leave the circle until you bring rain. And then a drizzle came down, small drizzle. And that wasn't enough for Honi. He said, it's not going to be enough for the agriculture. No, I will afflict myself even more until God will bring a real true rain. So God, gave him like measure for measure. You hurt yourself so much for a rain. I will give you a rain that will hurt too. So he started showering the land with huge flood, and everything was destroyed and from the rain, because because this is how you convey that sometimes too much self-torture can actually bring harm to the blessing. This is the point anyway. But in that legend, there is this part that people address Choni as the son of God. So Shimon ben Shatta sent word to Choni. This is a rabbi talking to Choni. Were you not Choni? If you were not Choni, I would place you under a ban. But what can I do to you, seeing that you ingratiate yourself with him, that is God, who is everywhere, who then grants you your wish, just like a son who ingratiates himself with his father. So this is a reference to a God and a son. And then he grants you everything you wish. Like if you want a bath, God will give you. If you want a bath of warm water, God will apply you warm water. If you want a bath with cold water, shower with cold water, God will give you cold water. Everything you want, God will give you, just like a son asks something from his father. And for that, of you, he said to him, of you, Choni, the scriptures say, this is a verse from the Bible, thy father and thy mother is glad. So it's like referencing that the connection of the righteous people with God is like a connection between a father and a son. That's it's trying to convey through this legend. But we have more references. Choni exclaimed before the Holy One, Master of the universe, your children have turned to me because they regard me as a member of your household. So this is Choni speaking to God. They think I'm like your son or one of your family. That's how they revered him. And again, it references again here. Choni, the circle maker daughter, had a son called Hanan ben Nechba. When the world was in need of rain, the sages would send school children to him. The children would take hold of the hem of his garments and say to him, Father, Father, give us rain. Then he would plead with the Holy One, Master of the universe, do it for the sake of these who do not know the difference between a father who can give rain and a father who cannot. So you see throughout this legend references of Choni depicted confused by the Jews as like his relationship with God is like a relationship of father and son. So this is where we get the worship of Son of Allah from. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes, but everything is actually like quite confusing. It looks like they had these stories and they were basically misheard. And actually we have here from Player Faint who basically, the ear, Muhammad is actually called the ear, and he took everything wrong. Obviously, I don't believe that the guy giving the book is the so-called Muhammad and so on, but it does look like there is a lot of not understanding what was going on, hence why all of the problems we've mentioned before, even the Mary sister of Aaron, and there is plenty of things like that. So it is not inconceivable to consider that, hey, they had all of these different stories, they tried to make sense of them, and they ended up with this absolutely wrong statement in Surah 9, verse 30, and here we are. So it would certainly make sense of how they twisted the whole thing or misunderstood it.
And did you see the parts of the story that are close to the Islamic version? Did you see the resemblance there?
Yeah, so we have him.
We're talking about the philosophical aspect yet. We're going to get to it now. But technically, the details of the story are very the same.
Yes.
Did you see that?
him sleeping, or well, in this case, sleeping for 70 years, which of course is not described in the Quran. It says, yes, that it happened for a while, but him thinking that it has happened briefly, that he's been asleep for 5 minutes, which is actually in the Quran. And then he comes back to life, and there is even the whole reference to the donkeys. Actually, interesting fact is that it's always the word donkey. When they copy the stories, it could have been anything. Why donkeys in all of these different interpretations? It could have been sheep, it could have been camels, but the fact that all of these stories, they have the same animal, that is, I think, a very strong clue that they were familiar with these stories, and of course then they got twisted.
Yes, because Jews are only allowed to ride donkeys, Jews and Christians, under Islamic law. So maybe that's all they were used to donkeys. But anyway, the comparison is you have the Babylonian exile because the Psalms, the legend is surrounding is about the return from Babylonian exile. We have the destroyed Jerusalem again because of this Psalms. We have that question he asked himself. This how can someone sleep for 70 years, followed by dozing off, becoming invisible, sleeping for 70 years, not realizing he slept for 70 years. We have the fruit of the tree and the donkey become herds. We have not being recognized by his own family and the people, and we have references for the from the same tracket about, although it's a different legend, but it speaks about people viewing Enchoni as son or someone that is relationship with God like a son. So we have those comparisons equal. But in the Talmud, just to show you how different it is, in the Talmud, one, the story deals with the question of the continuity of the Jews and bonding of generation. I mean, that means the exile to Babylon and the return to Jerusalem. It deals with the human life. Human life is not measured by personal gain, but what merits one leaves behind. That is the fruit tree. The father planted the tree he will not enjoy because his children will enjoy it. This is the meaning of being righteous, even if you don't gain from it. You give it to the next generation. There is a connection to the future generation. There is a long period of suffering that can feel like fleeting moment once redemption arrives. So in the exile of 70 years was like sleeping, and then once you're redeemed, it's like waking up to a whole new different salvation reality. That's what he feels, and that was this legend of sleeping conveys through that through the legend. And another lesson: without friendship and family, life loses its vitality, even in a redeemed world. That referencing when he was not recognized by his family and his friends, it makes life, even for a redeemed world that he helped to redeem, meaningless because he doesn't have this relationship. This is how family and community is important. That's the lesson of that legend. In Islam, on the other hand, the plagiarizer's version divorces from the message. There is no message about exile, return. It's about a destroyed city that Allah needs to revive it. It doesn't reference. It's actually speaking about exile and return and redemption. 2, it ascribes historical reality to the fantasy and sometimes spices up. So they regard all this legend about Choni and his dreaming and his sleeping and waking up and all this stuff as history, as something that happened, and they even embellish it with more spicy details like healing the blind like Jesus and seeing the resurrection of the donkey like Ezekiel. You understand? 3, it attributes the legend to a character recognized by Islam. So Choni is not in Islam. So Islam put it, just like they did with Isaiah and Zechariah, they put the story of Choni. They said, oh, sounds nice for Uzziel. So Islam put that story of Choni on Uzziel, Ezra. And it closes the legend with an Islamic narrative. In this case, the Islamic narrative is Jews are spreaders of corruptions, hence Jews worship Ezra as the son of Allah, while in Choni, in the story of Choni, people revered Choni as someone who is in relationship with God like a son to his father. This is the difference between the two. You understand the differences and how everything twisted out from the original source? Hello? Hello?
Oh, sorry, I was muted. Sorry, my bad. So yes, once we actually get to the conclusion, we can talk about the tafsirs and how they basically built all of this. When we look just at the Quran, when I actually read that verse in the Quran, I thought it was simply one of these countless verses that basically are just saying, Allah can do everything. He's super powerful. So there is a guy, a city is destroyed, but he made him resurrect after 100 years or whatever. So fear Allah is this thing that you keep getting.
Sign
all
for
the time throughout the
mankind.
Quran.
Don't forget sign for mankind. You forgot the
And the
most important.
sign, and it's like the sign, but we don't know who it is. We don't know the city. We don't know what happened. We don't know anything. You just keep reading the Quran like this, and because there is no information, all that you pretty much take away is Allah is super powerful and fear Allah, and that's all. And it's like, but what is my story? It looks almost like they took just single verses from here and there. That is what makes the Quran, and then hundreds of years later, people have to make up the stories. They have to almost figure out what those stories were meant to be in order for the illusion of the book being divine still being sold to the masses, right? Very bizarre.
Exactly. It completely divorces the purpose of those stories. It attributes them as historical events dealing with completely different people. It just plays around with stories as he pleases. And for that, we get to the conclusion that Islam is not an Abrahamic religion, but it's a method of divorcing away from them. So if I always say, if there's one picture in the world, if you want to understand Islam in one picture, it's exactly this picture. You have, the 7th of October, they call it, the Arabic name of 7th of October is Tufan Al-Aqsa storm. They were under all this rape and murder spree. They were on the way to free Al-Aqsa. They will kill and will die to free this place from the Jews, only so that they can go up there, turn their back to the place, to the Holy of Holies where the mosque is standing. They turn their back, they bent over and point with the rear side to the holiest place in the world. This is Islam. It's divorcing away from the original sources that started Islam, which is from Judaism, Judeo-Christian sources. That's the whole point of Islam. It completely divorces away from the religion it actually started as. And
Wow.
that's my conclusion.
Well, that picture there, I had never actually seen that, but even when you sent the slides, I didn't actually notice that. But yes, there you have thousands and thousands of people all showing their backsides to the holiest place in the Judeo-Christian beliefs, which is actually not very nice.
Yeah, no one would do that.
Well, I can see lots of thousands of people doing just that. But okay.
In different religions.
Let's see.
I would never move my back and bend down, even in a temple in Thailand. I would never be that disrespectful. But this is the religion. It divorces away from the places it originated from, which is right behind their back.
Yeah. And the whole thing actually gets so much worse when we consider that even the Masjid al-Aqsa, it was built in the end of the 7th century. It was about 80 years after the supposed night journey. It has nothing to do with the time of Muhammad. Of course, that didn't happen. But they built these things like many decades later, everything pointing at Abdul Malik. But that's a different conversation.
Yeah.
So Ezra. So let's see. We have one verse in the Quran, Surah 9:30, sorry, which is bizarre. No one understands why it says the Jews say that Ezra is the son of God. Okay, cool. And then you have to, what you have done is you found one verse in the Quran which is exegeted as being, in theory, according to their traditions, about Ezra. But it's also not about Ezra, it's also about Jeremiah. It's like they don't know, is Ezra or Jeremiah? Now, thinking about it, it would make sense that if this was such an important belief to the people who wrote this book, that the whole thing about Ezra would be in more than one place, because it's quite a big statement. Did you say that Ezra is the son of God, and then Allah is going to fight them forevermore? So it's a huge statement to only have one little part of a verse. It would make sense that in other places in the Quran, there were references to the origins of that myth, but we have actually missed them. And then with that in mind, you find this verse where in the tafsirs, they say, okay, this is about Ezra, but it also could be about Jeremiah. And in the Talmud, it's about honey. All three rolled into one. And when we line them all up, we see that if we ignore Ezra and we see honey, who actually matches this verse, he could have been understood or misinterpreted as the Jews thinking that he was the son of God in a legend. And then from there, they join the dots to saying, okay, it's actually not honey, it's Ezra, and they are calling him the son of God, not knowing that that only comes about honey and in a legend, which means no one really believes it.
The legend conveys the righteousness, the righteous of Israel, how they were so holy that their connection with God was like father to son. They were that's how they were, from all their prayers and affliction. It's actually been like a educational way of, this is what you need to aspire to be, like the righteous of Israel, like Abraham and Jacob, who had, and Moses, who had connection to God, like father to son connection. They could talk to him, and they could make him debate him, and make him change his mind. They had a special connection that it's something that we people should aspire to be, with Torah study and being righteous, and being seeing the purpose of making the mitzvahs. And so it's while in the Islamic just shallows it down to a simple meaning of Jews worshiping someone as the son of God. Just a very shallow. They think they call him the son of God, so probably the Jews worship him as a son of God. They shallow the whole purpose of the parable.
Yeah, and you have shown something similar before. That stream that we had about Solomon and Sheba is like they take a story and then they remove all of the bits that are actually interesting, including the conclusion, and they just pass on one message, which is, you see, Allah is powerful, does whatever he wants. They became Muslims.
Yeah, Sheba became Muslim. That's it.
Yeah,
exactly.
So, okay, very interesting. So I would say for people watching, I think this has been like incredibly new for me, and it's going to give me a lot of food for thought for people watching. So think about this. The Quran tells many stories in three different places and in three different ways. So we have the story of the birth of Jesus in three different places. We have the story about Moses in three different places. So it is possible that they actually borrowed from many different places and then they just chuck them together. So we've always been looking at Surah 9:30 about Ezra, and that being the whole myth. And maybe Shai is right. And the way to figure out that meaning, that some verses, is that we need to find the different places in the Quran where the story was being told in one way or another. So for people watching, based on everything that Shai has shown us today, if you find in the Quran any verses that they tell these stories, perhaps in bits and pieces, please let us know, because maybe the way of figuring this out is getting 3 or 4 data points in the Quran that were the original story, and we just need to put them in order, because maybe that's the problem. Maybe the stories are there, they're just not in order, so we don't understand them. So that's actually very, very good. Well done, Shai.
Thank you.
Great. And when we get to the tafsirs, I think another thing that you have also evidenced, even though it was not the intention, is that when the Quran told one story, and then by the time that we get to the tafsir writers, they really try to make the book divine. So they're trying to come up with any explanation they can. Hence why you've shown the same stories of, well, particularly Ezra and Jeremiah, and they are not even their stories. And also you've shown Isaiah and Zechariah. So they have a book that they cannot read or understand because there is no information in there. And then they are commissioned to make it divine. And you get the tafsirs.
It all boils down to this process of divorcing from the original, because they want to be a unique religion above all religions. And the more they divorce away from its origins, the more it becomes completely disconnected and completely absurd, to the level of absurdity. And it's not only that they divorced just the Jews and the Christians, they divorced themselves, because the Rashidun, the Umayyad killed the Rashidun, the Abbasid killed the Umayyad, and other Muslims killed the Abbasid. Everyone is killing them till this day. You see in Iran, in Syria, they all always try to be on top of each other to get control. So it's destroying everything that behind them to build something new. So it's not there's nothing solid or to hold on to. It's a gradual process of divorcing away from the originals and those who continue the originals. You understand? The continuous conflict.
And we can see that, so the Quran telling one story, which is basically what you are figuring out by looking at apocryphal stories, Talmudic stories, legends from all sorts, and me at my end, like reading the Quran in a neutral fashion, like let's just read what it says as opposed to adding the standard Islamic narrative. So we have the Quran, which tells one story, and then is that divorcing of the narrative, the narrative that is created is to divorce those origins. And then that's what we see in the tafsirs and al-Tabari, where they're just trying to make up stuff to put that distinction between the actual origins of the whole movement and what it is now, or what it was at every single point in time. So I think we keep digging, we keep finding where these sources, what sources they actually used. We keep seeing what the Quran actually said originally, and I think we will make an impact, because people couldn't do this in the past. We are now at the right time in history to actually do this, and we are standing on the shoulders of people like Patricia Crone and Professor Uri Rubin and people like that. So now is when we are privileged to live during a time when we can really get answers for everybody.
Amen. Hopefully.
Yeah. Okay. Well, this has been great. I actually thought it was going to take probably a couple of sessions, but you've done a really, really amazing job at just spending more time in the most interesting bits. So for people watching, what did you think? Did you actually enjoy this breakdown? Do you think that the reason that there is that verse in the Quran that makes no sense is because they got confused between Ezra, Honi, and Jeremiah? They end up with something that is just very unusual? Or do
leave
you have
comments
any
below.
other...
I will answer both in my channel and both in CJ's channel. I will be happy to hear thoughts, and I will read all of them, and I'm sure CJ will too. JC will do too.
Yeah, Yeah, and any comments that you actually send to me, if you send them to me directly, don't worry, I will actually send them to Shai, because this is Shai's area of expertise, and that's actually what I normally do. We've got
Better in
here
the
a
public,
comment.
better in the public, because it helps the algorithm.
Yeah, actually, that's actually, yeah, make sure that you actually put them there on the channel. So Andy has sent some comments. Andy, your comments have actually been very good, but they have had lots of references with verses and stuff. If you would be so kind to actually add such comments on the actual comment section, so like this, we have it. It's easy for us to find and to actually explore further. But yeah, I've noticed your comments. They're actually very, very cool. So please make sure that you send anything like that on the comment section, and then we will address them. That would be great. And apart from that, phenomenal. Shai, so do you have any other projects that you're working on? Any other content that you think you're going to be putting out soon?
Hopefully, I will meet some very important Israeli scholar and a politician, hopefully. And I hope I can collaborate, but of course it's for Israeli audience more, because my message in Israel, it's nowhere to be found. In English, you have a lot. You have you have Lloyd, you have Apostate Prophet, and you have great people doing this important job. In Israel, it's silent. So
Yes, that's something as well. There are lots of scholars and researchers in other countries. In India, they have lots of very, very good researchers, also in Germany, in France, but the English language is the one that actually gets everything out there. So if you actually find more stuff, make sure that you actually let us know, so that any of your discoveries, they're actually sent to the English-speaking world. And likewise, anything else that you see in this community, start putting it there, so that people in Israel can also open their eyes as to how Islam actually began.
amen.
Great. Okay, well, Shai, looking forward to the next time when you have some very cool things to show us, hopefully very, very soon. And
I
now,
dedicate this slide to the brave freedom fighters of Iran.
yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, well said. Javad Shah. So very, very soon, things are going to change. The fastest growing religion, indeed. So, Shai, any final words before we call it a day?
No, I'm fine. Thank you very much.
Okay, well, thank you very much for watching. Thank you for your comments. Leave your thoughts on the comment section below. And if you have any other areas of research that you think that we should look into, let us know as well. And hopefully we will get there as soon as we have the opportunity. So hopefully we'll see you all soon. Take care. God bless you all. Bye-bye.
There is only one Quran, right? Every Quran in the world is the same. That's what you've been told. You have been told a lie!
26 off the Quran.
26 different Qurans!
There are 0 Dawa guys apparently left on the planet who are willing to defend Muhammad in a debate.
Everybody can go and read it. This is a book full of mistakes in Arabic, in the grammar, in the spelling, in the pronunciation.
Whoever wrote the Quran made an error because they didn't quite understand what was written in the 7th century in the Torah and the Injil.
Stay away from these translations. They are propaganda.
We know that stories about Muhammad were made up on an industrial scale.
What in the world is this Injil?